Every lesson is a lyric in the universal song. Oh, the lessons of the journey, I'll weave them in my song.
Hello and welcome to Lessons of the Journey, where we discuss the stuff we actually needed to learn in school with Coach Jen and Coach Nicole.
Thanks for coming back and hanging out with us today. We're always glad that you are here. So today we are continuing our conversation about stress. Nicole, would you like to redefine our stress topic?
Yeah, I'm going to give you the agreed upon. So definition would be a response to external pressures or demands. We talk about work, deadlines, life changes. Symptoms. Physical would be muscle tension, headache, fatigue, digestive issues. Psychological would be irritability, feeling overwhelmed. And duration, we agreed, short-term subsides when the stressor is resolved. I also want to remind everybody that last week we did discuss 8 of the positive effects of healthy stress on us as humans. That was very enlightening. We had a good time.
Yeah, I like that one.
If you haven't checked it out, go listen to last week's podcast because it was pretty cool. Today, we're going to be diving into our next step on stress, part 2 in our series. This is really a look at why we are so stressed in the U.S. Some of these will apply to other countries. Jen and I live in the U.S. Why does it feel like we're more stressed now than ever before when we have so many modern conveniences? That, to me, feels like should make our lives less stress. And yet, not really the way it goes.
Leave it to us to complicate things.
We are good at that. Any comments before we begin to dive into our topic today?
Oh, what I would like to see if we can do is, knowing that we now know the 8 positives of stress, I'm wondering if we can somehow take the points that you and I are going to talk about today and make any of these positive.
She wants to see the light at the end of the tunnel of all these horrific things.
We've got a list. We'll find out. I think most adults, if you got a job, you got stress. Does anybody else's job stress them out sometimes? We work longer hours than most of the other countries in the world. What are we doing to ourselves? According to the OECD, the average American works more hours annually than many other developed countries. Sure, shit don't take enough sufficient time off for rest, recovery, and that gives us burnout and absolutely stress.
Yeah, I can relate to this 100%. It's always more and more and more. From my husband's long-term career where it was, 60 hours a week and nobody bats an eye. That's become the norm. Why? That's a lot of hours in a human's life that they're focusing on their job versus the other parts of life. It absolutely contributes to burnout and stress. When I was in my last career job where I was working for a company, it was almost bragging rights who worked the most. Yeah. I didn't buy into it. I was at a dinner event and the question was, how many sunsets have you watched this year? People were like, 20. Y'all, I've watched 365. Like, I watch sunset every night. I'm done at 5. Bye-bye. Like, if I got to go in a little bit earlier, that's fine. And I usually try to take off Friday, Saturday, Sunday. My goal was to get as much done in as short a period of time as humanly possible. I don't understand this, giving ourselves to our work. I think it's really messed up.
Well, this is what I think. I don't know much. This is what I think. I think that it goes back to the boomer generation where it was almost like you do the extra, you go the extra mile, you want to be seen, you want to be able to move up in the company. The more you show up and the more initiative you have and the longer hours you work shows your commitment. I think that society just said, yes, produce, because we are a consumer society and you will show up and you will get paid what you get paid, but you are expected to go over and above if you want to go anywhere. And I don't know that we actually participate in that mindset anymore. I think that as the levels of consciousness of society kind of rise, we're like, whoa, mental health is important. Burnout is not okay. You really do get sick physically, mentally from being overstressed at your job. And take a breath. I love Brene Brown says it. We want to be knowers. We want to be doers. We want to be seen as all of these things. And it's looked at as lazy if you take some time for yourself. I worked at a restaurant one time. I'm not a great server, but I worked at a restaurant one time, and I'm not a smoker. I never smoked a cigarette in my life. And as a non-smoker, I didn't get a cigarette break, which meant that I didn't get a break at all. If I wanted to take a break, where was I going to go? I was going to go outside with a smoker? No, I'm not doing that to myself. You couldn't sit down because management would look at you like, what are you doing? You don't sit down in a job like this. So I'm like, well, they get 15 minutes to go smoke a cigarette. I don't get to sit down for 5. Nope, you don't. So you become a smoker or you work your ass off and you will not sit down. And I remember thinking, well, that's some bullshit. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
I do think you're very sharp, Jen. So don't sell yourself short there, Missy. I would disagree with you on one thing. I don't think that the majority of people are moving forward in this. I still think this is a curve that a lot of people are moving uphill toward. You will see trends. I love watching these people on social media that will tell you how to kindly tell your boss to fuck off when they ask you to work more.
I love that. Yeah.
Those are some of my favorites. Man, if I could only talk like that person, I'm not working extra hours. By the way, for no pay. I think these things are changing. And I served for many, many years. I worked in tons of different restaurants, so I can relate to that. And now there are more breaks. I will say that's a step forward. There are more breaks for servers now.
Okay.
I know they have to break them every couple hours. You don't have to be a smoker anymore. There's that positive. I think the awareness is waking up, but to say that we're awake to that and to the detriment of that, I don't think we are yet as a society. I think we're pretty heavily into the long working hours.
Well, and you and I know this from being in productivity coaching. We require a day off. Right? When I'm working with somebody, I'm like, so what's your day off? Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah. What is your day off? Which one of these 7 days is the not working day?
Yeah.
What?
I would say the opposite. So how many days a week are you going to work in this job? And by the way, 7 is never the answer.
Yes.
And I prefer 5 versus the answer of 6. Don't tell me you're working 7 days a week. You can't show up and just produce as a human. And if you don't have that day, you don't have that rest and recovery, which is necessary. This is a big one.
Long working hours. Go home. See a sunset. That's what we say.
See every sunset.
Along with the long working hours, there's super high expectations and job insecurity. There's so much pressure to perform at a high level in mostly fast-paced work environments. And then you're not even sure if you're going to keep your job. So job insecurity, any layoffs, any fear of not meeting expectations, whether they're actually real, if they're really put on you, or if you've just made them up, because we do that sometimes, that totally adds to stress.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's that job insecurity.
Speaking to that, the lack of paid time off. You get into a new job and they go, okay, you get 1 week after 1 year with a company. The US, we're one of the few developed countries. We don't mandate paid vacations. Not having that time off totally stresses people out. You don't ever feel like you get to turn off. There's something about being able to turn off. When you're always on, people feel compelled to work more and not recharge. Everything needs a recharge. We got to plug in our phones because they die. Why do we think that we don't have to
Where's my
plug ourselves back in?
That's a great analogy. I love that. My cord needs plugging in.
Yeah, I use the Calm app every night. Good money spent. There is a nap series, and I'm a nap taker. If I can have one, I'll tell you that. I know how to unplug. He says that it's like a little 30-minute thing. It's a little power nap. The guy whose voice I like, he even says our phones need recharge. Why wouldn't we think that we need recharge? So I can't take credit for that. I got it from my nap series.
Love it. Wherever you stole it, we're going to take it. Run with it.
And then all of that, of course, would participate or contribute to this work-life imbalance. How often do you and I hear that as coaches? I just want to balance my work life and my personal life. Well, the truth is we're blurring those boundaries. We've talked about boundaries before. When you blur the boundaries between work and your personal life, you can't switch off. That totally is a stressor. There's so many reasons. Technology probably being the biggest because we're constantly connected to one thing or the other.
Yeah. I, being 53, remember a time when cell phones weren't a thing. I know some of you listening are going to go, was that ever a thing? Cell phones were not a thing when I was younger. They had to call your home phones. If you were out, there was no reaching you. My goal is every Sunday to put my phone in a drawer and not touch it. Everyone who knows me and loves me knows that my husband's phone is there for an emergency. But check out. No, you can't reach me. I'm unreachable. Imagine that in this society.
Such a big, deep breath for me on that one. I love that. I think that I'm of the age where I'm supposed to be attached at the hip to my phone, but I will put my phone down or let one of my kids use it. And I will walk away and forget. I'm like, oh, I should check my phone. It's still working hours. I'm the worst. I made my phone my wallet, so I have to take it with me now.
Yes.
But I would walk out of the house without my phone and not have a panic attack. I don't post on social media. And I think the generation below me is just like, what? That's not a thing. That can't exist.
Yeah. And we're going to dive deeper into technology
Yes.
as we move on. I remember when cell phones first came out because my husband actually carried a beeper. If work needed him, they could beep him.
Yes.
It was this little box, which if some 20-year-old found it on a plane, they think it's a bomb. It's not. It's a pager. And it pages a phone number. And then you have to go physically to a phone and call that number. It's usually only for emergencies, but work gave him a pager. I was like, this is not good. This is a slippery slope. Now here we are. No, you can't disconnect from a lot of jobs. That's really unfortunate.
Well, and there's so many entrepreneurs these days too. You just consider that you're on call 24/7. If you're an entrepreneur, you are regularly doing things to improve your business. There's no clocking out. I'm always on. I'm always answering. Some
Right.
sales jobs, you have to be waiting for my phone to ring. I'm waiting for my phone to ring. You have to be connected. I say, because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, you still have to have boundaries. You have to choose what that looks like. You say, hey, listen, I don't respond after 8 p.m. or whatever
Yes.
your boundary is, because whatever you want after 8 p.m. can happen tomorrow after 8 a.m. or whatever your working hours are. We are the ones that put ourselves in these positions because we don't have the strong boundaries that are needed. That really says that we're creating the stress for ourselves.
I got to tell you, when I get a voicemail from somebody and they say, I return calls between 10 and noon, Monday through Friday. I return calls on Saturdays. I will not call you back on Sunday. I'm like, yes, this person understands boundaries.
Yeah.
I've always said, if it's not brain surgery and no one's dying on the table, why do you need an answer in the next 30 seconds?
Oh, that's a whole separate podcast, Nicole.
Urgency.
Immediate gratification.
Yeah, oh, that's a good one. We'll add that to the list. Financial stress. I think this is an important one. Living costs have gone up. That's how things tend to work, especially in major cities. You talk about like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. The entire state of Hawaii.
Yeah, you and I both live in more rural areas, and yet we are surrounded by that concept of how does anybody work entry-level jobs or service industry jobs and live in these areas? The prices are so high. Cost of living just keeps going up. Housing costs are rising. Many people struggle with rent or mortgage payments. Constant need to manage debt.
Many people are in debt for basic needs these days. I'm making life decisions between buying eggs and paying my rent here. Yes, that is stressful.
Absolutely.
I got some kids to feed. This is crazy.
It's not always just that either. And I don't want to lay blame upon people who choose to spend and carry credit card balances for things, but there are expectations that are set upon us in our society as well. Like Christmas is happening, you should go into credit card debt. Who the hell made that a thing?
Yeah.
Watch the Money Podcast. There's the credit cards, student loan debts, mortgages, all layers of financial stress. It's something we have to acknowledge when people are concerned about finances, however that situation is entered into. In our previous career, Jen and I were both coaching real estate agents. I can't tell you how many agents I coached who were paying off $150,000 in student loan debt and were then real estate agents. Spoiler alert, it doesn't take a degree to become a real estate agent. I remember being in my 20s working in a restaurant with people who had those $100,000 debts. They were sitting with a degree and they were serving tables because they made so much more money. That's a messed up system. There's something broken there.
It is. And finances are one of the top reasons that married couples fight and or divorce. It is so stressful. It's individually stressful, let alone considering additional people that depend on you. Yes, absolutely. And that is a fear that works against just our basic needs. We need food, we need shelter. What does it take for food and shelter? Money. If I don't have money for food and shelter, I'm at risk of losing basic needs. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's massive stress.
I remember being on food stamps. My father literally putting, I don't remember this because I was in a Snuggly. That's one of the things that they carry you on the front. And he would put the meat between me and the Snuggly to steal it because it was kind of a feed the family or pay the rent.
Yeah.
And my dad chose to steal. And it's those moral questions. I get it when he says to me, I had to steal meat because we needed to eat. And he would work. He wasn't one of those people who's like, I'm holding out for a management position.
Yeah. Paul, my kid's dad, he was raised in central Mississippi. His mother was 17 when she had him. Big family, but ultimately she's trying to finish high school. After high school, she worked 3 jobs. And yet she made 4 cents more than what would qualify for welfare. You know, it's a real fine line between I needed to jimmy the water line and I had an extra 4 cents so the government wouldn't help me out if we needed it. And that's rough.
I knew people who had children and the government would pay for their care if they didn't work. But if they worked, they wouldn't pay for their care because they would make too much, even though, trust me, it wasn't much.
Yeah.
But then I can't afford to pay for the care. We have broken systems for sure that we need to look at. I think any country that is not feeding everyone in their country and housing everyone in their country has to look at what's going on because everyone should be fed and everyone should be housed.
And I would say that even thinking about these things is stressful. Yes, we're thinking about our own financial stress, but what you just said, there's that global, like, oh, there's a homeless epidemic in my town and so many other towns. To think about those things are stressful. And we're taking on this whole global thing that's all tied to financial stress.
Yeah. I just recently listened to a podcast. It was actually the overwhelming effects of big things. It was more focused on climate change, which we will talk about a little bit, but it was the overwhelmed you can feel when you look at something that systemically is a problem. And you either go, I have to fix it all, or you go, fuck it, because that's too much. And the way you do is you do small things and you usually do them with others. We can't fix problems unless there's more of us. So if you're somebody who can do it, when school starts, provide the backpacks, get the Christmas tree kids and buy them gifts. Just do what you can. Help people where you can help people. That's what is important, I think.
Agreed.
And that kind of leads us into income inequality. So economic disparity has been increasing in the US. With a growing gap between the rich and the poor, the inequality creates financial insecurity for many people, especially for those in the lower income brackets, where job instability, like you were talking about, and lack of access to resources can contribute to heightened stress. I can tell you, as a child who was raised pretty poor, I didn't know we were poor because I was still happy in the sense that I had friends to play with. I can only imagine the feelings that my parents were going through when my father has to stick that meat down and steal it. That just was not who he was. He was a very integrous man. He was very much about provide and take care of and pay your own way. That's how I was raised. So for him to have to do something like that, that's a level of stress that I can't imagine.
The biggest stress that adults have is financial.
Yeah.
I have to feed 3 growing boys. I'm at Costco every less than 2 weeks spending money. I don't know where this is coming from.
Jen, I will tell you there's a light at the end of the tunnel because I now go to Costco and go, I don't have to feed these growing boys.
Income equality, yes, where we're talking about lower income brackets, but even of the sexes, there's still a disparity between what women get paid hourly versus what men get paid hourly. When I was selling real estate, I'm like, this is what I love about selling real estate. 3% is 3% across the board. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. I get to negotiate for my income. And I loved that about that. But if we are in a clock-in job, which most of America is, then how do you go anywhere?
Yeah.
I have a current coaching client who is selling real estate. She maxed out at her corporate job. She went as far as she could where there were no more raises offered. So she was expected to work the same or more in the highest management position, and she was never going to get paid any more than that ceiling, working 20 years. That's why she was like, I got to do something else. And consider that stress. You go to work every day. You're a great employee, and pretty soon they don't care anymore.
Because now you're worth so much that they're better off firing you and hiring somebody for 3/4 of the price.
Isn't that wild?
That's what happened to my husband. Yeah.
So job insecurity. I've been here for 20 years. They don't care.
It's such a mess sometimes. All right. So this is healthcare costs. As we age, this becomes such a thing. My husband joked at me the other day. He's like, I'm seeing 4 doctors. What the hell is this? My husband's very healthy. And he's like, I don't think I like this. By the way, one is a dentist. The U.S. healthcare system is expensive. And even with insurance, many individuals still face significant out-of-pocket costs. Fear of unpaid medical bills or the inability to afford proper treatment can be a major cause of stress, particularly for people with chronic health conditions or low-income families. I agree with that. And I would also say just aging people.
Yes.
We have this property we're going to sell, and we both went, well, if one of us gets cancer, we can afford it now. It's like,
That's
what the hell? Even saying that kind of in jest, but kind of not. Whoa.
Well, because you have to add as much humor as you possibly can to something so uncomfortable. Otherwise, it would freeze me. If I can't laugh about it, I think that's why I get kind of like silly around death. I like try to lighten it. It's because if I don't, I'll just crumble. It's too much to think about. Also consider, we talk about perimenopause, menopause. Half of the population is going to go through needing hormones. Thank God we're talking about it more. But consider this. Insurance doesn't pay for this. You are cash out of pocket to receive the treatment you need as a woman of a certain age. That is embarrassing for the United States.
Great episode, by the way, if you want to go back and watch that one.
Yes.
Yes. Why would that not be covered? I didn't know that wasn't covered. Thank you for that information. That makes no sense to me.
Also consider the time off, I'm using air quotes here, for giving birth. There are women in the United States that go, oh shit, I just had a baby, but I got to get back to work. I can't afford to be off work for a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever they give you. Like, your body needs to recover, but you're like, I can't afford it. Got to go back to work.
My kid's friend just had their first baby, and I think he got 3 months paid leave. He did. Why is this not a thing for everyone?
They call it, for women, the child tax. You don't get to move up in your job because you chose to have a child, because you miss out on all of that time working. If you choose to have children, you're choosing not to accelerate in your career. And don't give me, Do you remember the show Murphy Brown?
Yes.
She actually addressed the workplace and children. And it was almost like, wait, you're taking your kid to work? Wait, you're going to go back to work and you're still going to maintain your Murphy Brown's hair? I remember that show addressing her having a baby late in life. And it was novel. People were like, oh, this is new. People don't do this. And that was in my lifetime. I was young watching Murphy Brown do her thing.
I think that's something that has to become so much more mainstream.
Yes.
We have to take care of women for sure. And just affordability, healthcare, please, please. Can we have affordable healthcare? On top of that, now let's go to the younger crowd. My son is 25. He did not go to college. He does not have any college debt, but he gets a phone call at least once a week saying, we can erase your college loan debt.
I'm 43 years old. I get that phone call once a month.
Here you go. Student loan debt. The average student loan debt in the U.S. is among the highest in the world. Many people struggle to pay off their loans for years after graduation. This contributes to long-term financial anxiety and stress. This affects so many different things. I know there's a lot of people who don't buy houses because they have to pay off their loan debt first.
I also think that there's a shift. Back when I was younger, it was like, you graduate high school, you go to college so you can go get a good job. I think that doesn't exist anymore. With the trade schools, brilliant option. You can go right into the field and start getting paid immediately. I just don't think that's pushed so much. I also think that a college education is excessively overpriced at this point in time. To physically go to a school, really, we have to pay a $60,000, $70,000 tuition annually to do what you and I are doing right now. That needs to be looked at too.
In looking at that, I think we have to pay attention to the fact that a lot of times colleges do open opportunities for people, even just in who they meet and connect with in the colleges. So it can present opportunities for people that they could never get in their home communities. So there are positives to it that can really make differences in people's lives. And yet I agree with you. If you look at the cost of living related to the cost of college over the last 50 years, it has gone up exponentially. It's absolutely ridiculous what it costs. So yeah, huge stressor for people. If it was affordable, I think a lot more people could go to college. I feel like college is both educational and life educational in how do I figure myself out?
Yeah, in between all the keggers. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is absolutely what we're doing in college.
No, we're figuring ourselves out at the kegger. The kegger is where you find out who you really are. What are you made of? What's your metal? Oh, that's pretty funny. Those are the main financial stressors that people have.
Yeah. What about political and social climates these days? Not stressing anybody out.
No, of course not. It's so wonderful. And we're all so kind and loving right now. It's just fantastic.
Gosh, the political polarization it's nuts. The US right now is experiencing significant political division. Obviously, you all are living it. We're not telling you anything you don't know. This causes so many people anxiety, frustration, super stress. And then all we hear on the news is political this, political that. The news is mostly pessimistic. The partisan conflicts that we're hearing just regularly, friends not being friends anymore, families torn apart. It's now chronic stress and we're feeling helpless. We're feeling angry, which then also stresses us out. This is a great line. You make yourself the deer in the presence of the lion when you watch all of this news. It literally is bad for your nervous system. You take in this information and your nervous system is like fight or flight. Something bad is happening, even though you're just watching it on a screen. Major stress.
It's huge. And I have a hard time just detaching from it all because it's made to rile you up. And even Jen and I, we have a lot of moral and integrity things in line, but we don't always agree politically. And it doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is, when did we become a society where it's us versus them and they're evil and we're good? What is happening to our country? The absolute vehemence that people are dealing with other people with. It just, I don't get it.
Yeah. You and I have said this before. Can we go back to not talking about politics? Do you remember like when I was growing up? You would never ask your neighbor, who'd you vote for? You would never, there was no conversation, and you could go to your neighbor's house and get a cup of sugar and it would be great. And you would share the cookies and it would be fine. And now you're like, fuck that guy. He voted for who at, and you're like, what? Wait, what about the cookies?
What happened? I don't know. I feel like it's so stressful and I have my own personal feelings and opinions about things. I look at people who embrace my feelings and I go, you're kind of being an ass. Why do you have to constantly just dig? You're like being a part of all of this polarization. Mm-hmm. It stresses me out seeing the people I actually agree with. So what is your purpose of that post? You're pissing off some people. You're making other people happy, but you're not changing anything. You're not causing anybody who was like, hey, I'm not really sure to go, oh yeah, that's the direction I want to go. I want to go with this person who's being an asshole.
Especially on social media, where all they're really looking for are the comments, because that's going to improve the algorithms. People are on purpose saying extremely divisive things. There was a time recently, and also 4 years ago recently, that I had to literally turn off my stories. I had to unfollow most people, like high school friends, just because doing the nighttime scroll, I did not realize how much some of this stuff was just penetrating me before bed, which is when your brain is supposed to shut down and help you recover for the next day. I found myself months in going, oh my God, I feel just sick. Mm-hmm. I can't do this. When I shut it down, oh, the sun is shining and people are happy. And it's so wild. I don't think that we realize what we are doing to ourselves as we are doing it, because no, we want to stay involved. We want to stay in the know. We give ourselves excuses as to why we would be watching this or participating in this.
Yeah. And guess what? Your neighbor that had the yard sign that disagrees with you will still say hi to you and be friendly, and you can be nice too. It's amazing. This is not a reason why we have to hate each other. It just isn't.
Speaking of, yes, it literally is hate, which is turning people violent. And that's what we're seeing on the news. People are becoming violent because of this polarization. Crime is up, gun violence is up, terrorism. Every 9/11, we're thinking about it. in high crime areas, which is like major cities. Can you even imagine? Like, I don't know how I would go to sleep at night. So you stay in a heightened sense of stress for fear of your personal safety and for your family's safety. And a constant fear is totally stressful.
You know, your nervous system is sitting there in this heightened state and it's not good for you. Then we're probably going from stress to anxiety. Now we're seeing some of the things that's a little more deep, or the stress that's not good, the stress that's not there to motivate, but the stress that can hinder you and really harm you.
Yeah. And going back to the fear, issues like racism, gender inequality, LGBTQ plus rights and issues, and immigration, and all of these things fuel social unrest and how people are showing up in society. When we feel socially unrested and we're showing up with fear, we can't do life. We're coming in with a sense of stress. That's not an authentic way to live. You ever do something and you're like, ooh, I did that and I was really desperate, and that's not the way things are supposed to go. That's how it feels. People are so desperate to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel like they're not on constant threat. That is tough.
The social unrest, to me, feeds into a lot of the lies too, because a lot of people go into spaces in their head and it's almost like reality gets distorted in a sense. I see that happening, and that causes more stress. It's almost a way of staying in the stress zone of having a distorted picture of what's was actually happening instead of coming from curiosity. If you talk about, you know, political polarization, violence and insecurity and social unrest, if we could all as humans come from a space of, I want to understand, we could eliminate almost all three of these. I really believe. Maybe not violence completely. Social unrest, political polarization, and insecurity could be changed if we really sought to understand our fellow humans.
Yeah, I think it comes from a safety mechanism. I can't try to understand you because the way I've thought for all of this time has gotten me where I am, and I feel safe in this space. So you can't be right, because if you're right, then that means I somehow was wrong, and then I feel unsafe about being wrong, and I can't have that right now. So I can't listen to you over here because now I'm unsafe. And that's not going to fare well for me.
I think you have a good point there. When you're talking about stress, having a society that really has these three things is the bad stress, whereas the good stress is actually seeking out and saying, this feels uncomfortable, but I'm going to sit with you. That's the key. And I think that a lot of people don't want to enter that zone because they're afraid of that zone. And I will quote a podcast I just recently listened to. We're all just children trying to function in these adult bodies. We're all scared. So where are we going to take that fear?
Yeah.
Are we going to let that be a positive stress that seeks to understand? Or are we going to let that be a stress where we look at the world as evil and awful?
Oh, thank you for pulling in one of the positives on this one.
I felt like we needed it.
Yeah. Well, that leads into the next thing.
Yep. Societal pressures and expectations. We have a cultural focus on achievement. We touched on this a little earlier. The culture of success places heavy emphasis on achievement, productivity, and individualism. I'm sure you've heard us mention it before. We were productivity coaches. We didn't have another name. We weren't coach to your best life as a real estate agent. We were productivity coaches. This is part of what our society does. That narrative that if you're not constantly achieving, succeeding, you're falling behind. This pressure can absolutely lead to feelings of failure, insecurity, and burnout.
Yeah. So we all know the way you feel when somebody goes, are you just being lazy? And the way that comes out and the way we receive is the same, because the intention is to tell you that you are wrong for the thing that you are doing. Even if that's like, hey, taking a 15-minute rest from my 23-hour and 45-minute job. So yeah, go more, do more, produce more.
Jen, go ahead and ask me that question.
What? Are you being lazy?
No, actually, I'm taking some mental health moments and I'm in recovery, but thank you for asking and caring about me.
That's a good one. I like that.
I just tried to be one of those people instead of saying, fuck off.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing. I know I've mentioned this before. The L word is a word we don't use in this house. We do not say the word lazy. We don't even say I'm being lazy, because I'm not being lazy. I'm recovering and I'm doing what I need for my mental health.
Now I need to look up the definition of the word, because how often have we just collectively decided that this is an awful thing? We have agreed to it. We, those who are receiving that information, have also agreed that lazy is a bad thing. The definition: tending to avoid work, activity, or exertion, causing or characterized by idleness or inactivity. Slow moving like a stream.
So it doesn't really have a super negative connotation, but it doesn't have a positive connotation either.
As a verb, to pass time in idleness or inactivity. Why is that bad?
I'm being idle. I'm like a slow stream. Leave me the fuck alone.
But we, again, decided that this is a problem because if you're not moving, you what? So let's all right now collectively decide that we're going to get rid of the version that says you're an awful person.
Right.
And we're going to accept what Nicole just said as, yeah, I'm taking a minute. Maybe if we said I am lazy right now, I've got 15 minutes of lazy right here.
Go ahead and ask me again, Jen, if I'm being lazy.
Hey, Nicole, is today a lazy day?
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for asking and caring about me.
We get to decide.
We reframed it.
Hello, because I'm a language freak. Why did we just decide to own that? And we can turn it around. I think that. So in every household, just decide that that's not a point of negativity and own it.
I agree. I'm still not going to say it because I feel like society has that negativity on it, but thank you. And I'm recovering. I've never had anybody say that to me outside. Yeah. Usually it's the way we speak about ourselves. That's where we're not supposed to say we're lazy, because there is that connotation to it. The version that society has put on it. Yeah, it's a good point.
If enough of us change it, it'll catch on.
It'll be a compliment. So perfectionism. The cultural ideal of perfectionism is prevalent in many aspects of life, from appearance to career success. This expectation be a constant source of stress, especially for people who feel they need to measure up in every area.
That's why social media is so awful for children.
Yeah, social media in comparison really is one of the biggest things for perfectionism right now. The word comparison.
Thief of joy.
So much so, the thief of joy. The rise of social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok has led to increased comparison and self-esteem issues. I heard a study once that said if you wait until high school versus junior high to give your daughters, not male, this was females, you wait till high school to give them a phone and access to social media versus giving to them in junior high, it will significantly increase their self-esteem. First of all, sorry, but I think junior high sucks because we're all trying to figure out how to be almost adults, and we're children, and we're dumb, and we do all kinds of dipshitty things to each other. I think it should be, you made it. Congratulations. Here's your award. Now forget the last 2 years or 3 years, whatever it is, where you are. And now you go to high school. Don't give kids phones. Don't give them access to social media in junior high.
We're also in 6th, 7th, 8th grade developing hormones that didn't exist before. And the combination of hormones and feelings and thinking that your parents are the stupidest people that ever lived, all of the things combined in the junior high era, throw a phone in there that says, oh, you need to also compare yourself to this, and go, good luck. We've heard expert after expert say, go ahead and just hand a bottle of vodka to your 3-year-old. And you go, I would never do that. And they go, that's what you're doing. You're literally doing this dopamine thing to your developing children, and scientist after scientist, and we're still here.
Yeah.
And because it's the easier thing, I don't know. We've already decided that we're going to be those parents that, no, we got other stuff going on. I don't care.
And self-esteem is such a thing for preteen girls. Now, getting off the youngers, now let's talk about all people, all ages, feel pressured to live up to unrealistic standards of success, beauty, and wealth.
And those vacations I wish I was taking that other people are taking.
Sorry. Success, beauty, and wealth. Let's talk about that for a second. First of all, we talk about success. You can say whatever the hell you want on social media. There's nobody monitoring the facts. There's nobody monitoring the truth. I can go on there and tell you, I coach 5,000 people every month and I make $500 million a year. You can't prove me wrong. By the way, all lies, total lies. I don't want that many. That's not me, but I could lie. I could say anything. And people, even if they're just embellishing, they're embellishing the facts. Let me just squeak that up a little bit more. My success is a little more than I maybe say it is. Beauty. Look, I'm 53. I got wrinkles.
Filter.
I am so terrified of those AI apps where you just take a picture of yourself sitting on a train and you have no makeup on and we're going to make you look like this. And you're going to make me look like a AI generated robot. I don't want to see myself like that because number one, I know if I look at that and then I have to look in the mirror, I'm going to go, well, shit, I want to look like that AI generated robot. So I've never done one of those apps. They terrify me. I think that ideal of beauty is getting scary as far as I'm concerned. I want humans to look like humans. Beauty is all ideals that are being handed to you, not by you. Okay. Having no eyelashes was beautiful at some point in time. Have you ever seen these women? Google it. No eyelashes is a beauty trend. That I'm not a fan. I'd rather have eyelashes.
Yeah, also time. I don't have time. I found a hair girl that will do me in less than 2 hours. And I'm like, this is a miracle. Like, I cannot live up to the standards of beauty. So at a certain point, I'm like, fuck it. I can't. It's going to stress me out too much. So I can either just accept who I am and the body that I live in and take the best care of it that I can and look the best that I can and feel good about myself when I look in the mirror. But again, it's that comparison. Yes. I want what they have. And we've just lost the ability to be grateful for what we in fact do have and play to our own strengths. And social media plays into that. And absolutely, it is awful for our children. Awful. And children these days are the most stressed out and anxious of any other generation of kids in the past. And it happens in the age of social media.
Yeah.
These kids are getting headaches. These kids are on anxiety meds. Did that exist when I was 10? No, it did not exist when I was 10. It is terrifying for these kids. It is robbing them of their childhood.
And I would say, I think we have to be cautious as what example are we setting? Our little one loves to look at videos and she likes to see pictures and she'll go through the picture and go, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? It's kind of nice because she now knows what my father looks like, who passed. She likes to watch things that have happened that we've had experiences together. There are times when I'm like, oh no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this over here because we need to be doing interactive play, not always just looking at the phone. I always joked when she was little, she used to bring you your phone if it wasn't next to you. I said, she thinks those are our battery packs. That's what I think she thought when she was 2-ish. She would bring you your phone if you walked away from it because to her, it should be right next to you. I was like, oh, this is not a good thing. It's a little terrifying sometimes. I think success, beauty, and wealth. Again, I can lie. I can say whatever I want to say. We have to be cautious of that. So that constant comparison can be absolutely mentally exhausting and create feelings of not just stress, but inadequacy.
Absolutely.
I do judge a little bit of the things. I know there's somebody probably watching going, oh, that Nicole wears too much makeup. We all do our things. I whiten my teeth.
I do those things because I prefer them. I don't do them so I can show up next to anybody and say, see. I also think it's important because I have boys. When I get ready, if we're going to go on a family date or if I'm even getting ready for work to show up as a professional, my boys will stand there and be like, why do girls have to put makeup on? And I'll be like, they don't have to. I'm choosing to do this because this is how I want to look. And they go, oh, okay. I want them to grow into men who aren't pressuring their partners to expect to be anything one way or another. So there's conversation because there's most days where I don't put makeup. I'll go and I'll run my errands and it doesn't define me, I guess is the point. But I also got to grow up before social media was a major thing. And I feel for these kids. I do.
There was a statement that I read once and I thought it was really smart. And it was, tell your little girls you're getting fancy, not you're getting pretty. Because a lot of times when we're putting our makeup on, we'll say we're getting pretty. And that's such a bad thing to say because you're telling them you're not pretty without makeup.
Yeah.
I'm getting fancy. That's so much better. It's the semantics of words. And yet that's an important piece. So
I saw the social media post and it was a mom and it was the cutest, Nicole. The mom on there was telling the story of the morning where she got on a scale and Oh, my daughter came in and said, Mom, look how strong you are.
Oh,
With the number on the scale. And the mom was like, you mean I've been living my whole life and I could have been saying, look how strong I am instead of look how fat I am?
So much
and I was
better.
like, that was so brilliant.
Yeah.
Let's do
Reframing.
that. Yes, it's the words. They matter.
So much less stress there. I love that.
Speaking of social media, it's all technology. So much information. We are constantly connected. Too much. Smartphones. Mine's right here with my wallet. We have a little mini computer in our pockets regularly. We have access to the entire world at the touch of a button. That's way too much power. That's way too much connectivity. And we're often feeling the pressure to respond immediately to messages or work tasks. Oh, this has to happen now. And that leads to information overload, too much pressure, then ultimately a lack of downtime. So we don't get that recovery.
I feel that sometimes. And I would tell everyone, you can turn every notification on your phone off. My phone, by the way, is always on silent. My phone doesn't ring. I do have a smartwatch. My watch will tell me if I'm getting a call, but I do not like my ringer on because the actual sound of the ringer gives me anxiety. It adds to my stress. I don't want to hear nothing.
Yeah, I even like my ringer and it's on vibrate most of the time. That changed when I had kids. When I had Grant 5.5 years ago, my phone went on silent and it hasn't seen the ringer because I would rather be spending the time with the people in front of me. I almost get annoyed when my phone rings. So this constant connectivity leads to overstimulation and it happens so quickly. We've got the TV on, we've got social media on, commercials are making us eat food we shouldn't eat. The news is telling us about all the nasty stuff that's happening. Even when you turn all of that stuff off, it's so hard to disconnect and unwind because those stress levels are just peaking up here. You don't just turn off the TV or close your phone down and then all of a sudden, oh, I don't feel it anymore. You're thinking about it. It's in your cells at this point. We're just living in a constant state of stress and technology is not doing us any favors. Why do we think we have to respond? Oh, somebody texted me. I have to get back to them. Why do you think that people deserve that much access to you?
Yeah.
That's something to reflect on. On the flip side, we also use social media and other digital platforms as a distraction. Even when we do get a minute to ourselves, we're actually not doing the active rest, the refueling. We're not doing that. And I've been guilty of this. The TV's on in the background. I'm scrolling through social media or I'm mindlessly playing a game on my phone. I'm not actually helping myself.
No.
And these things are smart. They're designed to keep us engaged. We're actively in a trap when this happens. So we get into excessive screen time, which affects our sleep. It affects our overwhelm. That all elevates our stress levels. When you have access to the entire world right before bed, really, do you think that's going to help you settle down? Is that a good way to put yourself to sleep?
Yeah, it's kind of scary. And people will say, oh, well, I just want to check out. But are you checking out? What are you doing exactly? We have to be cautious about how we use technology to check out or take that mental break. If it's a mental break, then social media is not a mental break. What is the break for you? Is it going outside, the feeling connected in nature? What do you need to really connect?
We also reach for our phones first thing in the morning. Most of us have our alarms on our phones. So the first thing we do when we wake up from slumber is go to our phone. It's not say good morning to our loved one. It's from there, I'm just going to check an email. It's 5 a.m. You're checking email. What have you done for yourself yet? Have you stretched? Have you taken a drink of water? What are you doing for you? No, we're reaching right for our phone and we're getting right to work or we're going right for distractions. We are addicted to this technology and it is fueling the stress that we are all feeling.
Maybe you're even just going on to look at the weather and then suddenly you're looking at other things and then you're going, oh, what was I going to do? That's a bad sign. I actually don't pick up my phone in the morning. I have my alarm go off on my watch. Then it vibrates, doesn't wake my husband up. I go to the gym earlier than he does. He calls himself a bed dweller. He stays in bed for a little while, enjoys the warmth. I go to the gym and I don't generally look at my phone until I'm either in my weight training or I'm after my class. Yeah, if you want me, tough.
I have my notifications turned off until 8 a.m. And some people think I'm crazy. They're like, 8 a.m.? We've been up for hours. They're like, what time do you wake up? And I go, oh no, I've been awake for hours. Businesses aren't open right now. Why am I supposed to be open? I'll take the morning. I'll get my kids ready for school. I'm also a bed dweller. So is my 5-year-old. My 3-year-old is not. It's in your face. I like that bed dweller.
Yeah.
I like to take an easy morning. I have always been that way. It really starts my day off poorly. I feel immediate stress if I'm going right to my phone or if I feel like I need to be responsive to somebody that early. My mornings are mine because then I have to be reactive the rest of the day. You don't get me before 8 a.m. And that pours in to our health and well-being. How is this affecting us?
Health and well-being. Some of the things just to keep in mind, chronic illness and poor health. Chronic disease, such as heart disease, diabetes, and obesity, are common in the US. Common. That is terrifying. And contribute to daily stress, both for the individuals experiencing them and their families. Managing these conditions often requires constant attention and creates a heavy mental burden. There's also that mental health stigma. We were talking about that. Even despite our growing awareness as a society, there still remains a stigma around mental health. Many people experience extreme stress but may feel reluctant to seek help because they have that perception that it is a weakness.
I think about how beautiful and brilliant it was of Simone Biles, our Olympic golden girl, to take a step back after a really tough couple of years and go, you know what? This is too much. Or there was a tennis player. She did the same thing. She was like, I'm not going to compete in this tournament because I'm worn out.
Yeah.
I'm not at my best. And the backlash that these elite athletes got from the dude who sits on his ass on the couch. How could she do that? She's at the top of her game. How dare she? How weak is this? How much strength did it take for these women to go, I'm not okay. I need to take a step back. I'm getting goosebumps right now. I applauded the shit out of that decision because it took so much. And it was such a vulnerable thing for them to publicly say, I need a break. And it's that society that was like, no, go do more, get another gold. I'm going to watch you from the couch. Right? It's like, you leave those girls alone.
I love your passion. And all I can think of is the mental health golden retriever of the women's Olympic team last year. I love this dog. How cool is it that this dog is there all the time? What a wonderful thing. But yes, mental health stigma, it really is a thing. I believe it's the lack of support more from our peers and our family. This is all of you that are listening. This isn't the professionals. How are you supporting your people in your tribe, in your family, in your environment? Because that lack of support can absolutely exacerbate that stress and lead to conditions like depression and anxiety disorders.
Well, I am crazy passionate about this. I'm developing a talk on how absolutely necessary it is for us as a society to change our language surrounding mental health. The premise here is, why is it when we have a physical ailment, we speak of it like, I have a sprained ankle, I have a broken leg, or whatever that is. And when it comes to mental health, it's, I am depressed. We are claiming these things as our essence rather than saying it is a condition that I am dealing with. It puts us in a category, not only in our own minds, but in the little ticker that we hold in our family and friends and society and the workplace. It puts us in this thing, oh, that person is needy or special because they are these things, versus if I have a broken knee, it will heal. I have to care for it in a certain way. If I have diabetes, I have to care for it. If I have a thyroid problem, I care for it in a certain way rather than I am a thyroid problem. I am bipolar versus I have bipolar. Why is it we claim these mental health issues as our essence rather than a thing that we need to look at to manage? Yeah. It's such a big deal, the way we converse about our mental health. It's so necessary to have these conversations with people because the stigma is there because of the way we speak or don't speak about it. Things get solved when we decide to be the ones to open up. Oh, I'm experiencing this. If you're the one in the group going, oh, this is happening, and every other person in that group is like, oh, that happens to me too. It's like, oh, they can take a deep breath because they feel like they can talk about it because nobody ever told them it was okay to talk about before. There's just this sense of relief the ability to say, I have this. This is how I manage it. This is what this looks like. Who can help me? Or who needs help? Or how can we talk about this to make it better? We are better together.
Absolutely. I have versus I am. I am depressed. I have depression. Different meanings completely. Along with that, health and well-being. We talked about a little bit, sleep deprivation. Busy lifestyles in the US lead to many people getting insufficient sleep. Sleep deprivation is known to increase stress, impair cognitive function, and reduce the body's ability to handle stressors effectively. We all know it. It is our time for our body to recover. One of the worst things we can do right before falling asleep is staring at our screens. Mm-hmm. We know this, yet how many people still do it?
Yeah, we fool ourselves. We're zoning out. I feel sick when I don't get enough sleep. Like, I feel physically ill. If you've ever had a baby, or if you've ever had a 3-year-old that comes into your room in the middle of the night,
it's a thing.
It's a thing. I have another girlfriend. We have a nap club. We'll go, did you get a nap today? It doesn't have to be long. Most people are like, I clock into a job. There's no way I could get a nap. Ooh, there's studies that show that if you can nap multiple times a week, you extend your life by like years.
It's good for you. And 10 or 15 minutes too. It doesn't have to be a long time.
So many things happen in rest. Our bodies are literally in recovery. Yes. Our cortisol is restructuring itself. Our neurons are firing for the things that we learned that day. We are prepping ourselves for the next day. There's so much happening in rest that professional athletes are now hiring sleep science folks to gain that extra edge. Elite status is looking for that 1%. The amount of sleep we need has even been debunked over the course of time. It used to be a flat 8 hours, and then people would go, oh, you can get away with 5 or 6. And now they're going back to, you really need that 8. And women need significantly more. Your body has to rest. And sleep is a great way to do that. How we get ready for bed. Do we on purpose? What's our habits? There's lots of different versions of what that needs to look like. Ultimately, allow yourself some sleep. You don't win the next day by not being rested.
That's for sure. And you do hit a certain age, happens to be probably once every 2 weeks, where you just have a night where you can't get to sleep. The brain's doing its thing. And you just have to go, okay, this is one of those nights. I don't know if it's been debunked, but they used to say you can't catch up on sleep. I think that's bullshit, because if I haven't had a good night's sleep and I get a really good night's sleep and sleep an hour or two extra the next night, I feel like a new person. Sleep is one of the most important things for us. And lack of sleep, huge stressor. And the ability to handle stress. There's days I didn't sleep well the night before. And then during the day, I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I'll go, oh yeah, I didn't sleep. You know, those days you're like, yes. Why can't I handle things? What's going on? What is wrong with me today? Oh yeah, I didn't sleep well last night. Oh yeah. And I'm always looking at the sleep app. Am I getting my 8.5 hours? I'm big on that.
I loved tracking my sleep. I was so fascinated. It's so easy when all of these things are happening and we feel like we're the only ones experiencing it. I'm guilty of this in my past. When I feel like I'm the only one, I retreat from my social groups. I almost create my own social isolation. So many people in the US, not only are we living geographically away from our families, we have a lack of community. Then because we don't have strong communities, we are lacking a strong support system or close social connections, which is necessary. It's one of our basic needs is to feel connected. That can cause stress. When we feel alone or sad and lonely and isolated, it's tough to do things alone.
This is one of the biggest issues for seniors is not having community and not having friendships, especially if you lost a partner, right? I was listening to the radio today. Yes, I actually listen to the radio every once in a while because I don't feel like hooking my phone up and listening to my Amazon Music. They said the most significant contributor to happiness, friendship, connection, relationships. It's everything. We have to be intentional about it.
Have you ever seen those blue zone studies?
Yes.
That is one of the things that they note in those blue zones, which is the people who live the longest. Community. They have a solid sense of connection with peers. It's, oh, I'm going to quilting group on Friday. It's Monday. I'm having a bad day, but I can talk about it on Friday. I think that, so we're in 2025 and we are still in recovery socially from COVID. which was in 2020. I had Grant August 2019. Everything shut down when he was about 6 months old. Oh, okay, well, that's okay. I'll just stay home with my brand new baby and we'll connect and it'll be okay and I'll be fine. And I did. And I have a beautiful, smart, now 5.5-year-old. It wasn't until he was 2 and I would start going outside. I'd be like, I don't know how to interact with you. Because resilience, because we've been through so much. You just shut down, you just do it. I did not realize how affected I was from that social isolation until years later. It maybe is still affecting us because now we do more Zoom meetings. People go into the office less. We are just disconnected because we have this access to the technology. We're texting people. We're using apps to connect. We're not actually connecting with people. We forget that that's literally a basic need. Humans need other humans. When our community is smaller, we almost feel like we have to show up for people. And that does something for us as humans. We need emotional support networks too.
Yes.
Because when you feel lonely, it is a type of stress and it's not a good type of stress.
Yeah. You always need community. We are literally made for connection. Our last point for stress is environmental factors. Human-caused climate change and natural disasters, the increasing frequency of natural disasters. A few months ago, we had the fires in California. We had fires in Maui a few years ago. We have these wildfires that we've never had this before. As a traveler, we spent a month in Europe. There were fires everywhere. This is happening all around the world. When we have these climate change disasters, that's a growing source of stress. You've got hurricanes way outside of hurricane season. I lived through the Northridge earthquake, and I know the stress of just after that and how we felt when the earth would shake again. There was a fear around that. When you've got all these natural disasters happening, it freaks you out. There is a stress level related to that, especially for the people that are having to deal with these directly. But just worries about the environmental future and global warming also contribute to feelings of not just stress, but dread. We were talking about it earlier. How do I make a difference as one individual person? And how you make a difference is in community. That's what we were talking about previously. It's that community factor. I think these all tie together. And you were saying, what's the positive of these? For some of these, it's the exact opposite that's the positive. It's having health and well-being and the social support, not having technology and information overload, not allowing the societal pressures and expectations, not paying as close attention to the political and social climate. I got a friend who lives in Spain and I said, who's the president here? He goes, I don't know. I was like, I want to be like that. I don't know. Financial stress, obviously we have to pay attention to that and work. Some of these, the positive is just simply flipping it on its head. And if it's not, then it's just make sure you're not doing it alone.
Yeah, I had to tell Paul this when we were having a conversation about validating your partner's feelings. You do the same thing in friendships. We are friends because we're able to validate each other and the way we feel, and we let our friends feel what they feel, and then we support them or we listen to them or we help with ideas if that's what they're asking for. And the idea that if you were doing this on your own, you wouldn't be able to express how you're feeling and then get validated for that. Then it feels like everybody else out there doesn't feel the same way, which then creates that isolation. What do we need to do in order to help us feel better about whatever the situation is?
Love that. Well, this has been informative for sure. There are so many great things that we went through today. Well, I want to go into our takeaways.
Takeaways. I don't think this is new information. For me, it's we're all stressed about something. Most of it is because of the climate in the United States right now. I love that we talked about the positives first. Now that we know what the positives can be, how do we then apply that to these global stressors that we're feeling across the US? And how can we help each other move that forward as well?
Yeah, my takeaway is really it does all come out to community and connection, feeling like you have someone on your side. And those people that are on your side and can feel with you don't have to agree with you. That's an important piece.
Yeah. Also, we're changing the narrative surrounding the word lazy.
Yes, we're going to do that moving forward.
Get out there and be different.
All right. Would you like to do your question first? Okay.
I will ask.
Okay.
You know, every time I come up with a question for you, I'm like, what would my answer be? I really don't ever know. What is the weirdest compliment you have ever received?
Someone once told me they thought I had pretty feet. Yeah, she's this adorable woman. I love her. And she's like, you have beautiful feet. I was like, feet? Really? It took me by surprise. My husband goes, did she say feet? I went, she said feet. I was like, yeah, I got some nice feet.
Yeah.
I want to suck these sexy toes. I'm not actually into that. I thought it was hilarious. And what a cool thing to focus on. Like, she's a little quirky in her personality. I think she just kind of focuses on feet, maybe. I was like, aw. And
there's an OnlyFans page waiting for you out there.
Right? I know. That might not be the direction I'm going to go. But yeah, that one comes to mind.
That is
totally
weird.
different.
All right.
Totally different. My question is actually a question that I refuse to answer. It's would you rather? I don't know why this one always stumps me, so I'm very curious what your answer is. Would you rather be able to speak any language or be able to communicate with animals?
I'm going to go with the animals because I think that I like animals more than I like humans. And you know, there's probably some good stuff going on in the minds of these animals. Also, I'm fascinated by so many different creatures. You know how we were talking about earlier about sitting down, just understanding somebody? I would love to sit down and talk to a cheetah. Or we got the whales here, right? I talk to the humpbacks and be like, tell me, what is it? What do you want me to know? Yeah. I think that would be very cool. Also, I'm pretty sure that I communicated with my dog in the past. I'm positive I knew what she was saying. You know, that matters to me.
I love it.
Going with the animals.
And either answer is 100% correct in my book because I love both answers so much I can't answer this question. And I would follow you around the zoo while you talk to the cheetah and the other animals. We got a zoo date.
But also, I have Google Translate on my phone. And so I can go to another country and take the slow time, but can't talk to the lions.
That's true. You bring up a good point. Today was fun. We had a lot of stressors to talk about in the U.S. Yes. I think we brought up some really good points. And I'm glad anybody who's listening joined us. We will continue this series. Next week, we start talking about anxiety. It'll be good.
We talked about stressors in the U.S., which means that most people you know right now are feeling some or all of these things, just like you are. Do not be afraid. Please open your mouth, have the conversation. Somebody you know right now will have this conversation with you. You are not alone in these feelings, and just simply by talking about them relieves some of the stress. So find those people, say the things out loud. It will help.
Great advice. Until next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Write your lines with passion, let your spirit freely roam. The lessons of your journey